Good morning. I'd like to call the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order for August, I'm going back in time, October 8th, 2019. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting today. We'll begin our meeting by asking Marie Reese to come forward to deliver our invocation, and then Commissioner Rawls will lead us in the pledge. So if you're able, please stand.
Our Father in heaven, we approach thee this day with gratitude in our hearts for the opportunity we have to live in this free land. We're grateful unto thee for our local government, for the vision and foresight that they have. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to be here today to exercise our right as citizens and government leaders, that we can come together and be united. We ask thee at this time to be with them, to bless them individually and collectively, that they might be buoyed up in health and in spirit. We ask thee for a blessing to be with our county, that we might be prosperous, that we might be found worthy in thy eyes. And this we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Rawls, and thank you, Marie. And on such notice, Marie, thank you so much. Commissioners, we'll move down to agenda item 2, approval of the minutes of the August 13, 2019.
I move for approval.
September 2019 Board of County Commission and August 27, 2019.
I still move for approval.
Okay, got a proper
Second.
proper motion by Commissioner Goddard and a proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, I'll recess our regular Board of County Commission meeting. I'll convene the Port Authority meeting. And our first item of business is to approval of the minutes of the August 13th, 2019 meeting and the September 10th, 2019 Port meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval as presented. Second.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, item B, we'll open up the public comment. Any individual wishing to speak on any of the port items, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting and we'll move down to C, general discussion. Any items wishing to be discussed this morning?
Mr. Chairman, I have something.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
On the consent agenda, in item F, there's a couple of insurance renewals that actually pertain to the port. I just wonder if we shouldn't move those up now and deal with those, if they can be dealt with individually. They're page 67 on our packet here.
Do we need to separate those or?
Okay. Okay, so
I think so. I think that would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, do you think it might be appropriate to go on and pull item F off the consent agenda at this time and move it to the port for that portion of it?
Gentlemen, may I interrupt? The port transfers money to the risk fund, and the board's risk fund actually pays for all the insurances. So the port's extent of payment for the insurance is a transfer over to the risk fund, which is the board's fund.
So,
Commissioner Harvey?
so what I'm hearing you say is probably we should make a motion to transfer that money over to the port for the payment of these insurance on these two amounts that
From the
Commissioner
port.
Rawls has brought up.
From the
I
port.
think that you, as part of the budget
Yes,
process,
we already
you
did.
approved that transfer already. So the payment for insurance should stay on the consent agenda as a board payment.
The on the summary, it says it's renewal of the insurance policies. So this is not a renewal of a port policy, it's a renewal of a county policy?
It's an insurance policy held by the county. The county's the insurer.
Who's the payee?
I,
Or
you need Barbara,
Yeah, Barbara said she was going to be here this morning.
and I bet she's watching.
All right, why don't we,
I don't know.
I don't
Yeah,
think
you
it's
have two- you have-
necessary to pull it.
We're convened as a port authority right now to do port business. I personally have heartburn if we're trying to commingle things like that. You know, the ordinances or the state statute's very specific, and it says that the port shall defray its own expenses. It doesn't say it might, it says it will, and, you know, it just seems like we have a little bit of mud in the water, so if there's a way that we could get this cleaned up, it's confusing to me because it says we're looking for renewal of a policy, but you're saying it's not a port policy, it's a BOCC policy, but we're convened as a port authority.
Exactly, and the port in the budget hands money to the board to pay for insurances. And the board then pays for insurances.
Barbara.
I knew you were watching.
What was the question?
Commissioner Rawls?
Mr. Rawls?
Yes, sir.
It says, Human Resources requests the board approval to renew the following policies. Under it, you have Florida Municipal Trust Insurance for property and auto, Florida Municipal Insurance Trust Port Authority for property. That's not a standalone policy from what Ms. Papella is saying, correct?
The Port Authority policies are standalone. They're all paid for out of the 507 risk management budget.
Okay.
But the Port Authority property is only Port Authority property, and the Port Authority general liability is only the Port Authority general liability.
Those are standalone policies?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think it would be prudent for us to deal with this as a port authority. It's not just a transfer of money to cover one big policy, they're separate policies.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Turner?
Okay, I need a little clarification here. Did we approve this already in the budget, under the Port Authority's budget? Is that what we did?
Yes.
And so basically, this is just paying what we had already approved, and is the money coming out of the Port Authority to pay for this policy?
It's coming out of the Port Authority, going into the risk fund, and then the risk fund is writing the check.
Correct.
Okay, but it's coming out of the Port Authority's budget, and it's already been approved?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The money part.
Right, I understand.
But what we're looking at here is the renewal of a policy, not the approval of a policy. It's actual renewal of a new policy. So that, when I read that, it just kind of jumped off the page at me. We're trying to, my goal, if nothing else, is to get us separated as much as possible so the Port Authority can act as the autonomous body that it should be. And in this case, we obviously have two policies that we're responsible for.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Turner?
I'm not sure what you're asking, Commissioner. Just a second. Barbara, if we pulled this one policy that is on here for the port off of this policy and paid for it separately with a check, what difference would that make whatsoever?
It is a separate policy.
Okay.
It's not mixed in with the board coverage on this building or the EOC. It's standalone. It's only those buildings at the port. The GL for the port. They're standalone policies. They're not mixed up with the other ones.
So basically, the only difference is we're writing a check to the insurance fund, and the insurance fund's writing a check on behalf of the port. That's the only difference?
So you could approve the expenditure for insurance as the Port Authority, and it could still be paid from the risk fund.
Thank you.
I'd like to offer a motion if I may.
Okay,
It'll clean this up.
Okay, hang on, let me get Commissioner Harvey first, okay, and I want you to finish up. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the board, I would like to make a motion that the Port Authority approve the renewal of the Florida Association of Counties Trust Liability Port Authority 939.00, Florida Municipal Insurance Trust Port Authority for property, $5,831.00.
Second.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. We'll open it up for more discussion. Commissioner Rawls, you had a,
Nope, that was it. I was gonna do the same thing.
okay, do we need to pull anything else, or that's it? That's just that motion to take care of that one in the Port Authority? And we'll take care of the rest of them in the consent agenda, is that correct?
Yes.
Of all of them in the consent agenda. You guys just approved it.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Only those two sections that pertain to the port are in this motion, yes.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. All right, any other comments about the port at all? Okay, I'll adjourn the Port Authority meeting and reconvene the Board of County Commission meeting. And item 4, the update on the CSX Injunction, Mr. Joe Dinovo and Mr. Alex Sharp. Mr. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sharp and Sheriff Deloche are here to give kind of an update on where we are with regard to CSX. They've been working with the folks at CSX. Alex and I did have a conference call with their counsel a couple weeks ago, and this is pretty much just fill you in on the level of cooperation that we're getting from them, and anything else the sheriff or Alex would like to add.
First and foremost, I just want to praise Mr. Sharp and Mr. Dinovo for the yeoman's work that they have done, working with CSX in the spirit of cooperation to make certain that their needs are met and that their work gets complete, and also that the needs of the county are met and that we preserve public safety's best interest. As it stands right now, I'm prepared to make a recommendation to you that the Sheriff's Office and the Board of County Commission drop the suit against CSX. They have shown over the last several weeks that they are more than willing to be cooperative, which brings me back to a previous conversation that we had in a workshop as it pertains to this issue. And it's my belief, it was then and it is now, that this issue arose as a result of a contractor that they had retained to do some of this work. So it's my position that we should drop the suit with one stipulation, that being a follow-up conference call with Mr. Sharp, Mr. Dinovo, and CSX to ensure that there is a bypass around 309 in the Satsuma area so that it does not put an undue burden on emergency services or any of our citizens. That work is scheduled to be completed in the next few weeks, but with Mr. Sharp and Mr. Dinovo's phone call and their assurance from CSX that they'll do the bypass, I'm prepared to recommend that we drop the suit.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Suggs, or excuse me, Commissioner Turner.
So we need a motion to drop the suit, is that what we need? Because it was instigated by a motion from the board?
Yes, I think with that stipulation, like I said, we don't anticipate any problems with regard to CSX based on their cooperation over the last week or two, but we would want to make sure there is a workaround on 309.
I'll just tell you, they're calling Alex anytime a train drops below 45 miles per hour.
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Second.
Okay, got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, and proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much.
Sheriff, I just want to say, as far as the county commission and Mr. Sharp, thank you for your efforts with this. And it looked like you got CSX attention.
It appears as though we did, yes.
Yeah, so, which is a good thing, so. And also Administrator Suggs and Joe, thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great example of when the commission and the sheriff's office, and we'll bring the school board in as well, sort of having these serious conversations about holding these contractors responsible for what they put our citizens in Putnam County through. I think the result of this is a great example of what can be accomplished. And I will tell you that, I think it was last week that Mr. Sharp contacted my office because CSX was wanting to do a build around, and we had an issue with some piping or something in the way, and probably within just 10 minutes, Public Works was already notified and headed out there to see what we could do to assist. So it's a collegial and a cooperative approach that we're using now, and I haven't had any further contact or any issues from anybody on these projects. So kudos to the sheriff's office, to Alex, and to Joe Dinovo for
for their yeoman's work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other comments? Thank you. Okay, we'll move down to presentations and proclamation of the Family History Month. Ask Ms. Marie Reese to come forward with the Putnam County Genealogical Society and any of her staff with her. So I've asked Commissioner Goddard to read this proclamation.
Good morning. This is Putnam County Proclamation Number 2019. There's no dash, but I assume it's one. Declaring October 2019 Family History Month in Putnam County. Excuse me. Inasmuch as October has been deemed Family History Month nationally, and as much as the Commissioners of Putnam County recognize the importance of county and individual family histories, we do hereby proclaim October 2019 as Putnam County History Month in the County of Putnam, State of Florida. We recognize that family history research can offer greater insight into an individual's identity while also providing a sense of community and togetherness. This history can be found through DNA testing, records of military service, vital records, census data, ship passenger arrival records, and other historical documents. We join with state and local archives to supplement the research process and help individuals construct family trees. Local organizations such as the Putnam County Genealogical Society provide access to integral resources for genealogical research. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of Commissioners in meeting assembled on the 8th day of October 2019 that the month of October is declared Family History Month in Putnam County. Chairman, I so move this to be in our record.
Got a proper motion by Commissioner Goddard and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. All in favor of this proclamation indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Congratulations on the proclamation, October Family. Hopefully you'll say a few words.
Commissioners and all those who are assembled, we want to thank you for this proclamation recognizing family history as an integral part of our county's history. As part of October, being Family History Month, the Genealogical Society last Thursday had a presentation on preserving oral history, and we know through studies that oral history is lost within 3 generations. That's how you get these, my grandmother was a Cherokee princess. Well, there may or may not be any truth to it. A lady just found out that her grandmother was indeed born in Cherokee, North Carolina, but she had no Indian blood. This Tuesday, the Family History Center is having an open house. This is, I think, an unrecognized, maybe, resource that the county has. It's amazing how much is there. There are trained volunteers to help people start their genealogy, to work through brick walls. You have access to Ancestry, to Fold3, to newspapers, all free. Everything is served by volunteers, and what a great asset that is. We have an invitation somewhere. Yep. The library is planning on beginner workshops on genealogy, and looking ahead, the Genealogical Society is partnering with the Historical Society in February to have a History and Genealogy Expo. Again, we thank you and appreciate this recognition. Can we have our...
Thank you so much.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? At all? Okay, all right, we'll get a photo. Thank you so much for what y'all do, okay?
Sarah, did you get one?
We getting a picture? You want us to stay up here or? of us here. That's okay, you stay right behind. Harvey, he's the big one. Tall one, thank you. I'm losing weight. To the left. To the left.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations.
I'm Secretary of the Genealogy Society, Sharon Barnes.
I was supposed to introduce everyone. This is John Robinson. He's actually the president this year of the Genealogical Society. Sally and I are directors. Sharon is secretary, and Patricia is one of our brand-new members. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next presentation is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'll ask Miss Lori Slavin with the Lee Conley House and some of the other volunteers to come forward. Okay, that's good.
Good.
That's good. So I've asked Commissioner Harvey to read this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2019, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a crime that impacts all citizens of Putnam County, and whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, taking a dramatic toll on the criminal justice system, law enforcement, the healthcare community, and society as a whole. And whereas each year in Putnam County, an estimated 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men are victims of domestic violence, that would translate to 13,000 individuals affected in our county. And whereas it is vital for our community to support the victims of domestic violence and assist with their grave financial, physical, and psychological losses, and to impose legal sanctions against perpetrators of personal violence, whereas Lee Conley House is the only domestic violence center in Putnam County providing 24-hour services and counseling to victims and their families, and has been awarded certifications through Florida Department of Children and Families. And whereas the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners urges all citizens to actively participate in and support all programs sponsored by the Lee Conley House, thereby assisting in the elimination of domestic violence in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, that October 2019 is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Putnam County to participate in planned activities benefiting the Lee Conley House and its mission to provide shelter and support to victims of domestic violence and their families, done, ordered, and adopted this 8th day of October 2019. Mr. Chairman, I move this proclamation for approval.
Second.
We've got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, a proper second by Commissioner Turner. All in favor of this proclamation indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, and thank you so much for what you do with the Lee Conley House and for Putnam County. My youngest son is now the domestic violence prosecutor in Putnam County, and I'm very glad to have him home. It is definitely just a tough deal, the whole thing.
And you should be proud.
I'm very proud. So anyway, so congratulations. Thank you.
First off, I just want to thank you all for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October. It's nationally recognized, so we're very proud of the work we've done, the movement, how far we've come. For some of you that have been involved at least as long as I have, Jeff, Tim, Susan, you can testify to how far we've come in Putnam County alone and nationally. But this could not have been done without our wonderful partners from the State Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, the Health Department, Clerk of Court, the Palatka Police Department. Am I forgetting anyone? We have wonderful partners all over Putnam County. But the advocates, Joanne and her team, our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week advocates at the shelter, Kim and their team, the Kims, Janet and her team, and the team at the police department, and obviously the clerk of court. We can't do what we do without them, and we can't do what we do without you. And I know that individually, many of you have been involved with what we do, our movement, and collectively, you have always been a great supporter of Lee Conley, and we appreciate that.
Good.
Anybody else?
I know Tim Smith has a comment he would like to make, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and so good to see all of you here for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Last year during this event, I spoke about the creation of the Lee Conley House and of the namesake that was assigned to that. So I'm not going to go back over that, but Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I would like to take just a couple of minutes and make some comments about domestic violence. I was leaving the courthouse last week one afternoon about 4:30 at the front door, and the deputy sheriff was there that serves papers for that day. He had 7 to go serve. They had processed 7 domestic violence injunctions that one day. If you ever look at a domestic violence document, it says petitioner and respondent. Petitioner is the victim, the respondent is the abuser. I think it's unfair to have those nomenclatures used in that. It should say what that is. It's a victim and an abuser. And sometimes you have to pull those curtains back and look at the ugly truth, and that's what's going on here. Abuse comes in a lot of different forms. It's not just a physical abuse. It can be mental. It can be separating mothers from children. It can be withholding cell phones. It can be controlling bank accounts. It comes in a lot of different forms. But irregardless how it is, it's wrong. And when it gets down to the part of a physical abuse and of a abuser, and it could be a woman, it's usually a man, but it can be a woman, the same. If the abuser uses physical force, that should be called out. Those folks should be identified. If this is ever going to stop, it's going to have to come with some consequences. And so I don't say this to take anything away from the recognition of this month, because I'm certainly a supporter of that. My wife was a court advocate for 8 years. I lived that with her 24 hours a day, because when you're an advocate like these folks here, 5 o'clock comes, it doesn't stop for them. They work all day and all night. They get phone calls in the middle of the night, and it's strenuous on these folks. So I applaud all of you that are involved in this, that move this effort forward. We've made progress in Putnam County. We've still got a long way to go. But I do believe that abusers should not go without some consequences, and the sheriff does a great job when they violate those injunctions. They work to try to bring those folks to justice, and they should. And so I wanted to make those comments. Some years ago, during this month, we put lights on the courthouse specifically to turn purple lights on during October for this, because we wanted people, when they drove by at night, to see the building lit up with purple lights. Now, unfortunately, our lights are on some kind of breaker that every time it rains, they get tripped off and they turn them back on and the lights go back to white. So I went by last night, they were white. I said, oh, they're not supposed to be white, they're supposed to be purple. So we're working on that today. But this really is a important issue in our community, and we all have to do our part. And I'm going to finish up with one last story. Some years ago, Bill McCullum was the Attorney General for the state of Florida. He asked me to serve on a fatality review team. I didn't really know what that involved. I was glad I did it, but it was a 3-year effort. They went back. There was a case in Orlando where a wife and 2 children were murdered by an abuser. And so what they do with the domestic violence review is they go back as far as they can in their life and see if there were any signs and opportunities for someone to intervene that would have stopped that. In this case, there were 13 instances where this woman had reached out and sought help and didn't get it. And so then the Attorney General can go back and say, okay, we have to put controls in place. We have to put safeguards to try to allow those folks, when they come forward, that someone's there to help them. And so some of that results is what you see behind you today, is this huge team here in Putnam County that's working to do that. And so I thank all of you. I get to see it firsthand, and if you ever want to really know the true aspects of domestic violence, you read the descriptions of what happened. It will send chills up and down your spines. And so thank you for allowing me to make those comments, and thank all of you for the great work you do on our behalf.
I just want to say one more thing. Joe threw me off being in uniform.
Purple patch.
Always in uniform when I see him. However, Joe is our board member, and if you'll look on his uniform today, he is wearing patches that support domestic violence. These patches are on sale at the Sheriff's Department. They're $8 a piece.
Yes, I believe so, and you'll see that many of our deputies are wearing them throughout this month. We allowed them to purchase these patches, and then we put them on uniforms for them, so you see a lot of our deputies in purple and even some in pink this month, so that's what that's all about. But since Lori called me out anyway, I was trying to hide in the back over there. I just want to follow up on what Mr. Smith said and what Lori has said. I think that we have the best team. I mean, I'm in my 22nd year of law enforcement, and I've seen how we handle domestic violence progress so much from the days when I started to if a victim didn't wish to cooperate or file charges and we left the scene and nothing further was done, to where now the state is a secondary victim and we can step in for them. But I'll tell you, we are seeing domestic violence tick down in Putnam County this year. We're hoping that holds, and we'll show some great numbers in December. I think a lot of that is due to this team behind me, our close working relationship with the Lee Conley House, Sheriff DeLoach's program to put these ankle monitors on prolific domestic violence offenders. We've recently just worked with the judges to extend those distances out further so that we get more notice as the offender approaches the victim's home or place of employment. And we've made a lot of arrests off those ankle monitor violations. Some of them were cases that were very serious, so I think that's working well. Our victims advocates, we've just obtained a fully funded grant to add a third victims advocate at the Sheriff's Office to concentrate on domestic violence. So it's all coming together, but it's just going to take a lot of teamwork and a lot of time to change the public perception that domestic violence is not a private matter. It's a crime against the community, and we have to address it that way. So, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Well said.
Thank you, Joe. Commissioners, any other comments? Commissioner Rawls?
Yeah, I'd love to echo what Mr. Smith just said. That I've worked with Lee Conley House on and off quite a bit over the past 10 or 12 years, and being on the Public Safety Coordinating Council, one thing that we talk about a lot is mental health and substance abuse issues, and that drives right at the heart of what you guys have to deal with. And the victims are not just the men or women that are abused, but also the children that have to be taken out of stable environments, put in an unstable environment. And if you've never had the displeasure of going into a domestic violence shelter and hearing children talk about being there, and I've had the I guess the displeasure of witnessing it, where a 4- and 5-year-old brother and sister were talking, and the sister said, "This is the nicest house we've been in." That really, really hits at the heart of it, and it's a community problem, and the solution is a community solution. And I really hope that going forward, this commission will see the value in trying to get substance abuse and mental health issues support and inpatient treatment facility maybe in the county. You know, we have a huge need here as a county, and unemployment leads to substance abuse, leads to domestic violence. We really have to, work towards getting these guys out of business, which is getting everybody else into business. So I applaud you for your efforts. I could not do what you guys do on a daily basis. You really, really, really have a special heart to be able to do what you do.
Thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Any other comments? Okay, thank you so much for what y'all do and making a difference in our community. So thank you for your comments, Mr. Smith, and we'll get a picture, okay? Will that work?
Hey, Joe, how much for the whole uniform?
Yeah. You don't want to know.
Hey, did y'all see the purple tie?
Yes.
Okay. I got the memo.
You don't need the sheriff.
We're gonna give
up and do that thing again.
trying to raise a little money.
Sheriff, you gonna take pictures again? Probably be the only way I'll get seen.
Perfect, I can stand on this.
Oh, yeah. Grew about 7 inches, did you? Did you get us all? Good deal. Thank you so much. Oops. What was that? Oh.
Couldn't get that word right. Almost spit it out for you. Should have helped me. Just a little. I couldn't get the word.
I'm
apologize.
just going down the line.
And then it bothered me as I kept going. Darn. And I practiced it too.
Okay, Commissioners, we'll move down to item 6, public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information. Please limit your comment to 3 minutes. We prefer that you fill out a public comment card, which are available at the entrance and the exit of the building, and give them to Sarah Oliver to my left, the clerk of the board, and to y'all's right. And when you come to the podium, please speak into the microphone and announce your name and give your address. So we'll start with Mr. Douglas Hayes.
Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Douglas Hayes. I live at 216 Hilltop Avenue in Satsuma, candidate for County Commissioner District 3. Today I'd like to reiterate concerns with animal control. First, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Suarez on a good adoption program that took place. It was the mega adoption up in Jacksonville. I have gotten off the phone recently with the No More Homeless Pets group and presented an idea, and they're willing to mentor us with where we could have mega adoptions in our county. The mega adoption program is twice a year up in Jacksonville, which does capitalize on the populace. But with us being in the center of the surrounding counties, and it's a multi-county event, we might be able to take advantage of our geographical space. Not counting that if we're known for our festivals and events, that would be one more feather in our cap, that not only would people show up to look at the purchase of dogs, but they might have lunch and gallivant around in our antique shops and that kind of thing. So it's a win-win all ahead of the game. Not counting that the transport of the amount of dogs that we're capable of to the mega adoption, with it being in county, we could have the whole slew out there and make availabilities. The second thing is that I have a concern in regards to what are we? Are we animal services or animal control? The surrounding counties are usually animal search and rescue, animal services. They are a user-friendly name. To cater to the mindset of the millennial, and during this election process, you have an opportunity before the year's end to legislate or define the policy that we are labeled as animal services and rescue. Our department or mechanism on the books is animal services, but our vehicles and our T-shirts and our publicity seems to be animal control. I find that to be rather kind of authoritative. It's not near as user-friendly. And once again, the mindset of the millennial, that it might cater to that. The third thing is funding mechanisms. It turns out that I had presented a program called Wolf Tracks, where you have an application to your phone, and as you walk your dog, you get credited for miles, and in turn, they donate money to the shelter. Ms. Suarez has tried to sign up for the program, signed up as animal control to discover that it's already been signed up, so I had presented old news. But it seems to me that we're having a problem finding the money. She may have found it. I have yet to communicate with her, but it goes back to the next topic in regards to that you've got a tax, you have a fund, and you have a department. We do not have a department. We don't necessarily have to have a placeholder, but what we're running into is that the money that's donated goes to general fund. There's an account assigned to it. Finding that and having accessibility for the sunshine capabilities. How much money has been donated? What do we have in the account? What can we utilize? And so it's difficult to find. Where if it's a little more transparent, which we had an opportunity, I had presented the idea during the budget process that you could have made that transition. But I'd suggest that perhaps we could do that, because the next thing is a personal thing is to help assist in funding. PetSmart has 5 different funding mechanisms, including transport for dogs for adoptions. They have pre-adoption medical capabilities, and they also have for if we wanted to set up a veterinary school and that kind of thing, and a couple other ones. And so the process is that you sign up with one of the PetSmart stores, and they actually do foster adoption programs where you bring your dogs over there and they help to adopt them out. And because it would be a cost issue of transporting to St. Augustine or DeLand or Jacksonville, they have the funding mechanism for that. So there's a complete adoption program. I'm unaware if we're involved in it, but when you look at the government website, it has a PetSmart logo, and you tap on it and so that you can donate to the PetSmart charities. It doesn't direct you to where our involvement in that program. The next thing is that
And Mr. Hayes, if you wrap it up about
Okay, I'll wrap
30
it up.
seconds.
The final thing is, I had mentioned that a lot of agencies have what they call the Friends of, and that is your nonprofit organization that holds the charity events and that kind of thing to help subsidize the government entity. We have a Friends of, but it's not a nonprofit organization. They've been so kind as to help with our social media in posting dog adoption, but they've hijacked the name. I think that somewhere on the line we need to work with that individual or individuals and create the nonprofit so that we could hold charity events, because if we want to have a nice animal shelter, it seems to be all about money, and that would be a revenue source to do so other than the government entity trying to panhandle and ask for donations. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
God bless.
Mr. Sharon, comment?
Okay. Commissioner Rawls?
Mr. Hayes, did you attend the last Animal Services meeting?
No, I did not. It was held at 9 o'clock, and I give him an update. I spoke with a person that was part of the Animal Advisory Board, mentioned to him my concern in regards to it being held again at 9 o'clock in the morning, and his response was that because the government departments have to tend to appear, that they have it in the daytime during the government operations, which I have concern if it's a Citizens Advisory Board, and I do understand that it's not fair for the government entities to, on their free time after hours, show up at these type of events because they're hourly employees. But at the same time, if we're a Citizens Advisory Board, the citizens can gather and discuss and then occasionally hold meetings to update with the government entity during government times.
Okay. So the answer is no. I would highly encourage you to attend those meetings. I think you have a lot of great ideas. I think they need to be heard by the Animal Services Committee, so we can hear from them. But as far as them, they set their own times. If they're not aware of that, they should be made aware of that. But the citizens volunteers can set the meetings whenever they want. So but I would highly encourage you to find a way to make that next meeting and bring your ideas. I think they would love to hear from you.
Okay, well, like I had said, is that the response I got was that they're catering to the set schedule based on that what the government schedule is.
So for now, it's 9
And
o'clock.
so-
I would encourage you to try to make the next meeting.
Yes, because I guess that'll be the first thing I present,
Yeah.
is that it should be available to the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Okay, next speaker, Ms. Andrea Conover.
Hi, my name is Andrea Conover. I live at 105 Rivers Edge Drive in East Palatka, and I'm the owner of the future Azalea City Brewing Company and restaurant and event space, which will be in the old Coca-Cola bottling plant downtown Palatka. I applied to be on the Tourist Development Council back in May because my businesses, all three of them, are going to depend on tourists as well as local residents to be successful. I attended the meeting in June and then again in September, and was surprised at the September meeting that my application to be on the board wasn't even discussed. The board members who were present just voted to reappoint the two members whose term were expiring, but my application wasn't even discussed. And I talked later with one of the TDC members, and he didn't even know that I had applied. So I'm asking the commissioners here to not just go along with the TDC reappointments that's on the consent agenda today, because I would like my application to be considered. I have experience in other counties. I moved here from St. Johns County 3 years ago because I had been kayaking here, and I discovered this beautiful area and moved here. My business degree, I have a business degree and 20 years of sales and marketing experience. That's back in the DC area. So this is what I do, is sales and marketing, and that's what tourism is. Since being in Florida, I've worked for several different nonprofits that had a regional focus, the St. Johns River Alliance. So I got very familiar with 13 counties along the St. Johns River, and recently completed the Northeast Florida Regional Council Regional Leadership Academy and served on, so we got to know all the 7 counties in Northeast Florida. Learned a lot about how those other counties do their tourism marketing, and think I have some ideas that we can use here in Putnam County. Although I've only lived here for 3 years, I've got a lot of ideas that I would like to be considered for TDC, and I think outsiders' viewpoint would be beneficial to the county. That's it.
Okay. All right, Ms. Conover, thank you very much.
Right.
Did you say, is your business operating now?
No, we're not open yet. Hopefully, it's going to be in, we should open either by the end of the year or first quarter 2020.
All right, good deal. We're all looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment portion of this meeting. We'll move down to the consent agenda. And commissioners, you received 2 addendums, so we also have item 7 would be O, and then 7P and 7Q in the addition. And then item E, I do this the correct way. I need to pull the reappointment portion. Everybody's having some problems this morning. And we're going to review the process because, as Ms. Conover states, there is another application. And so this will come before the Board of County Commissioners at a later date, but we do need to approve the Tourist Development Council recommendation. So I will leave that portion on the consent agenda. So are there any items that you wish to pull? And I'll start with Commissioner Goddard.
I have none.
Commissioner Rawls?
Just for clarification, you said you're pulling E? Okay.
I'm pulling the reappointment part of that. Is that,
Okay,
is that correct, Mr. Dinovo?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Mr.
we're
Chair.
leaving
the funding.
The funding will stay in the consent agenda.
Item G, item H, and I believe it's item P, the dirt to pave. I just want to, and I already said H.
Okay, dirt to pave is O.
Oh, hang on just a second. What page is that? That was the addendum, that was it. I have to do it by, I got mine in order. What page is that? Just give me the page number. Just the page number's fine.
It was
It's one of your addendums, sir.
in the addendum, 2 to 4.
What page number is it?
2 and 4.
204?
No,
2
2
and
and
4
4,
of the
2
addendum.
through 4 of the addendum.
Okay, that's fine. But what item number is it? 7O?
7-0.
Okay, O, okay. So it'll be O, H, and G.
I got G, H, and O. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Turner,
I have none.
Commissioner Harvey,
I have none, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E as amended, F, I, J, K, L, M, P, and Q.
okay, we got a proper motion to move those items forward. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a second by Commissioner Goddard. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, Commissioner Rawls, we'll start with G.
All right, so it's kind of G and H combined. In G, we've got an ask of an increase of about $200,000 for the CEI. And then we have a contract for CEI services for about $105,000. Now, I'm just trying to figure out why we're asking for more money than we're actually needing for the CEI services.
Mike Nimitz, Public Works. The initial funding agreement from FDOT did not include the funding for the CEI services.
Right.
That's what this new agreement does. It captures that.
But
And-
it's double what the actual CEI cost is, and that's why I'm saying these two issues, G and H, can be discussed, because one is asking for more money than we need, and one of them is half the money that we've asked for, and I'm just trying to, I wrote you got, 20% CEI services, then I wrote, but actual is only 10%, and I'm just trying to figure out why that would be.
With the variances, well, again, some of it could be with the turtle relocate, as well as some additional, potentially some construction items. I'm thinking I would have to look at that, why the accounting may be
The
off.
total relocate 17,000, but.
No, that's for
it's-
phase one.
Huh?
That's for phase one. The 17,000 is for phase one.
But your total CEI contract is 105,000,
105.
but the ask is an additional.
The additional
more
was
than 200,000.
1.2. So there's some additional funding. I would have to research why that is, but I'd look into that.
Well, who comes up with the numbers, I guess? Do we
FDOT.
come up with the numbers on the ask?
We've been with the FDOT.
Okay, so we ask for an additional amount of money that supersedes what we actually need by double, and I'm just, who came up with these numbers?
I would have to follow up with our engineer. I think there may be a little bit of oversight between the construction costs there. I think some of that may be construction costs that were not captured in the beginning.
Okay, well, what I'm looking at says CEI, so,
I agree.
And then
There's
right
there is
behind
a
it, the
variance
CEI
there.
contracts.
I would have to research it further. I'm not sure.
well, it's just confusing to me, having to make a decision that is double to one, that's all.
Agreed.
Should we back the number down a little bit to our actual need?
I could follow up to see where that variance comes from and advise the board in today's workshop meeting.
Okay.
I just noticed that myself, so
So,
I will follow up on that, and I could provide further advisement and clarification.
so are you saying we should just hold off until the workshop on this? Is that what you said, or?
Yes, I would like to, given light of the situation there. That is a significant variance, and I will have to follow up on that.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Rawls, we've got a couple other questions, and I'll go back to you.
Okay.
Commissioner Turner?
This has been approved by DOT and it's being paid by a DOT SCOP grant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What's the problem then? DOT's paying for it. They've approved the civil services that are being done. So I don't understand where there's a problem here, and I certainly don't think it needs to go to workshop this afternoon.
It's not out of our pocket. Again, it's no cost impact to the county. There is a little bit of variance in the numbers, and I'd need to dial in where that variance comes from.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Harvey?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Also, DOT will audit this, and if there is a discrepancy, that money will go back to DOT.
Yes, that is correct. We have had some funding agreements come through
Yeah.
above what the contracted amounts were.
I got
And
that.
so there is some contingency, so it may be some contingency funding that's in there.
that may be utilized for additional change orders and things of that nature.
Gotcha, but DOT
But there is
will-
a discrepancy there.
DOT will audit, and if there's money left over, all that money will go back to DOT?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And it's not uncommon for some of these projects to increase in price due to unforeseen
This one has
conditions.
increased a lot, and it's time for
Considerably.
this to come home.
In the go for tourist relocation, again, for the numbers we have dialed in right now, there's always a potential that they discover that they're more than what they estimated, that number will increase, as well as duration as we've seen with
I
phase
know.
one.
Believe me, I know.
Yes, sir. I would rather have more money than not enough from DOT in this particular situation, so.
Thank you.
My concern is that we have a hard CEI number, but do we have that before DOT approved this? Or, I mean, at some point, DOT comes to us and says, like, how much more do you need? And we just threw out an inflated number.
Their
hoping to get
funding
that.
figure, their CEI estimate came in before we negotiated that number, so that may account for some of the discrepancy
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
This-
My biggest concern is I don't want us to be out there asking for astronomical numbers. If we could use this extra money somewhere else and ask for it somewhere else, we have a lot of needs in the county, obviously, but tying it up for this one project, if we could possibly
Well,
ask for it somewhere else.
The
we'd-
funding allocated for this project is specifically for this project. They can't go and shift it to other projects.
My point
It's
is
5 years
if we
out.
weren't, if we weren't funding that extra money for this project, maybe it could go to something else if it wasn't tied up here, but I'm good. We can move forward. The other one I had was the dirt to
Okay,
pave.
wait a minute, let's go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman?
and I want to add, I forgot to, everybody's got a update of the resolution, okay, that replaces page 86, and it now matches the project description on page 87.
Right.
Okay, in your public works part, okay? So we got that for the record.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Mr. Chairman?
Chairman, will entertain a motion on item G.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the consent agenda items G and H be approved.
I'll second.
Okay, got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey and a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Item G and H passes. So we'll move down to item O.
Okay, and that's the dirt to pave list.
The question I had on that is let me find this first. What's throwing me off is that I didn't get a revised agenda that has everything on it. So I'm used to working off the agenda with the page numbers, and it
Oh, that's okay.
got me off my, the numbers that we're looking at here, it says Putnam County BOCC intends to award the contract to complete the removal of derelict vessels as described within the invitation to bid to Halifax. That's not mentioned in here. And is it like buried in a dirt to pave?
Wait a minute.
I'm just going to go ahead and say before she starts is, I think all of us have found that, so at least we're reading our material, because I said, what does this have to do
It's a clerical
with these
typo.
paving the roads? So,
There is no derelict vessel removal. The intent to award form is a template,
Okay.
and it was used to remove. An addended or an
Okay.
amended intent to award was posted online, but it didn't have a material
I thought
change.
it was the two derelict vessels that we've been talking about that the state won't recognize as a vessel, and we were going to bury it in the pavement of a road somehow, but,
It's just a template.
okay.
Clerical error on my part.
Okay. Are any of these being awarded under a continuing services contract?
No, this was a
This was
dedicated bid
okay,
just
all right,
for.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. And by the way, I put pull to discuss. I just wanted to get a clarification
Sure.
on the derelict vessel side.
Anytime, yeah. Commissioner Pickens came to see me yesterday about it, so.
Okay.
Excuse me. Can
Okay.
I interrupt? Commissioner Pickens, can we have some clarification on consent agenda item N? We had some confusion as to whether it was included.
I think
You know
you
what?
said N, did you
N?
not
I just wanted to
say
make sure
N?
it was on the recording.
If I didn't say in, I meant to say in. How's that?
you want us to do it separately? No, that's on. Okay. Okay. Chairman, will entertain a motion on item O.
So moved.
I got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, consent agenda passes.
Chairman, may we take a 3-minute break?
Take a 3-minute and 8-second break.
Coffee time.
Time to get rid of it. Look like you enjoyed Disney.
I did, yeah, it was, anytime you can get out of the county for a few days, it just feels like you've
Is code enforcement. While they're coming forward, I'd like to recognize a few individuals in our audience. Mr. Lee Gardner, the interim administrator for the city of Palatka, president of the Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Dana Jones, and Ms. Leota Wilkinson, Bobby Payne, State Representative Bobby Payne's administrative assistant, so executive assistant. So welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. First thing I would like to do is introduce you to our new code enforcement supervisor. This is Mitra Goswami, and she's started October 1st, thank goodness, and is taking over code enforcement.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, she's got quite a deal of experience in code enforcement and comes from Green Cove Springs. So,
welcome.
Say aye.
Morning, everybody. Thank you.
So as you know, first thing we're going to go through, and Mitra will be here with me because from now on you'll be dealing with her, is we were going to go through the fine reduction worksheets.
I don't know that I've ever seen you so excited, Charlie.
I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty happy. Anyway, our first one is case number 2015-00719 for 435 Kitty Avenue in Interlachen, Florida. The property owner's name is April and Douglas Callahan. The violation was an unsafe structure and care premises. The original fine amount was $23,775. We are recommending, and the cost of enforcement for this was $1,142, which we recommend we reduce this fines and fees to for these new owners. These folks did buy the property, fix it up, clean it up, and did a beautiful job doing so. I'm not sure if they're in the audience. Mr. or Mrs. Callahan, are you here? Could you come forward, please? Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you for your time today. This has been a long, painstaking fixer-upper.
Speaking of the mic.
During the last 9 months, we hit a little setback. Our property was broken into, stole a lot of valuable tools and things like that. So we do have a little bit of setback there, but things are going a little bit better. We hired Preston to come in and redo the electric to make sure it was safe. And we're continuing to dump a lot of money into it. Anything you guys can do to help me out, I really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Any questions, Commissioners?
I have a question.
No? Okay.
Charlie, at the last time we did this, I believe it was the monthly administrative fee that we were also waiving.
No, that is something that you folks, is all I can recommend to you.
No, I'm saying that last time we had, when we were going through these, the administrative monthly fee, we waived on one, then we said, you know what, we can waive it on the other ones. Is that correct?
I don't remember, I think that you did make the choice to waive it on one, but I didn't know that that was something we're going to waive from now on.
No, I'm just.
It is a
I'm-
cost
I'm-
to the county.
Okay, I'm just asking if that was that one fee.
That was not my understanding, but that is that fee. It's a $10 a month administrative fee for us to, look back on it and stuff like that. It is a soft cost, and it is something, all this is at your discretion to change.
Right.
And understand, once again, is all I'm recommending is what the total cost of enforcement was to the county.
Okay. Any other comments, Commissioners? Okay, what's y'all's pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion that we waive the administrative $10 fee for a total of $320, which, if my math is correct, reduces the enforcement action to $822.
822, did you say?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Turner, I know you made the motion before. Is that what we were doing? I remember we were being consistent with each one because they all had different amounts. Some was 5, one of them was only $25, I think.
I think
Is that was a?
if you'd allow me to second the motion, I'd be happy to do so.
Can you second the motion? Or would you?
No, sir, he made it and I hadn't seconded it yet.
It was like that.
Before my esteemed chairman kicked in, so. So anyhow, I think this is consistent with what we were trying to do before, and, was to try and reduce administrative costs on this down to a portion of it. And I think it's also consistent because it's another one of these properties that were out of compliance. Somebody purchased it, they've done everything they could to get it into compliance, and I think those are exactly the ones that we need to help out as much as we can. So I'm in full agreement with Commissioner Rawls' motion. Where's my star?
Okay.
On my desk.
All right, so we got a proper motion by Commissioner Rawls to an additional reduction of $320 from the administrative monthly fees to take it down to $822, correct? And we got a second by Commissioner Turner. All right, Commissioner Harvey?
Yeah, further discussion, Mr. Chairman. Are we going to put a time limit on this, like 60 days or 90 days?
Oh, well, they're already in compliance, I think, but they'd have to pay it within 90 days or 60
Something
days?
like
Yeah,
that,
okay.
90 is what you've been going with.
Okay.
90? Okay, within 90 days.
Commissioner Rawls, would you amend your motion to add that that has to be paid within 90 days?
Yes, I would.
I'll amend the second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we've got a proper motion again with the amendment and proper second. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Goddard?
Yeah, same thing is, you said these are soft cost.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do we want to make this, how we're going to do this from now on? Make this, that we're going to eliminate the administrative fee, when, in these type of circumstances?
Commissioner Turner? And then we'll go to Commissioner Harvey.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I think that we need to maintain consistency throughout this process. That's the most important portion of it. But I think we also need to hear what they think the costs are. And if we decide to do that on a case-by-case basis, I think it would be proper to do that. But for them to just start dropping their costs off because we're not making them pay them, I don't know that would be proper. I would like someone else's opinion on that, but I think we should hear it and then remain consistent about not doing it.
Right. I definitely want to recapture our cost at all possible, but we also want to help those that are doing what we really deem is beneficial to the county, which is improving these properties. So I just want to see if we want to continue putting it on here, and then we'll make the decision each time to reduce it or leave it.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this something that I could bring some recommendations to the workshop on?
We're always open to recommendations from you, Charlie.
Because I would really like to have Mitra's input on this and John Ciaffi's with maybe something that's a little bit more user-friendly. So if I could get on the agenda in the future for that, we'll bring recommendations to you if you'd like.
Okay.
Thank you.
Put that on maybe a third Tuesday workshop, or next time we do it. Hey, Commissioner Harvey, did you have a comment?
No, Commissioner Turner took care of that for me. Thank you.
Okay.
We were thinking alike today.
Okay, so we got a proper motion and a proper second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Care, bud. Yeah, what you can do if you want is you can go pay it now or you can whatever. But
Commissioner Harvey?
I'll send it to.
I will after they make their presentation. I just wanted to go ahead.
Just
and
wanna
be
be
first on
first,
the next one. Yes, sir.
3 months, thank you. Gentlemen, the next one is case number 2013-0035, 113 Mangles Drive, Interlochen, Florida. Cynthia Torres Gonzalez. It was for an unsafe structure, permits required, and care premises. The original amount of fines and fees was $41,862. The cost of enforcement on this, and our recommendation is to bring it down to cost of enforcement of $2,012. I'm not sure if Ms. Gonzalez is here today. Is Ms. Cynthia Gonzalez in the audience?
She is not, Mr.
She is not. So that our recommendation is that she be given the opportunity to reduce it to $2,012 to be paid within 90 days, please.
Okay, so thank you, Charlie. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, Ms. Gonzalez will be watching as soon as we post this video online. She's at her business up in New York area. Just want to let you know that this is in our neighborhood, and if you see the page, the last page of your packet on this topic, that home had been sitting there for a long, long time, over 20 years. And it was a drug haven, it was all kinds of things. And it's now you look at the bottom picture and it's not there anymore. Mrs. Torres bought this property behind her mother to move onto the property and to help her mother live out the last of her years. They actually built her mother a house right in front of this property. Ms. Torres will be actually locating some of her business here in Putnam County. And I appreciate these administrative soft costs because I went to Charlie and Mitra earlier with Mr. Cialfi. You know, in a building permit, she's going to spend a lot of money to build a new home. And if we could reduce that cost down, that would really be beneficial to her because this is what we want. We want people to buy these places, clean them up, bring their business to Putnam County. We got a win-win situation all the way around on this. So, Mr. Chairman, when that time comes, I'll be prepared to make a motion.
I think that time's here, sir.
Yeah, I think.
Chairman, I make a motion that the board accepts $1,457, which is less the $555 from the actual presentation, if it's paid within 90 days.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we've got a proper motion from Commissioner Harvey to reduce it another $555, bringing it to $1,457, and we got a proper second by Commissioner Goddard. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
The next
thank you,
case is 2009-00351, 152 Slaughter Road, Palatka, Florida. The property owner's name is Robert S. Wester. Violation is dangerous structure, care of premises, which have been corrected. The original amount of fines and fees was $88,377. The cost of enforcement on this was $2,154. This fellow bought this property, he demolished it, cleaned it up, and has done a beautiful job doing so. Our recommendation is that the board vote to reduce the fines and fees to $2,154 and it to be paid within 90 days. Is Mr. Robert S. Wester in the audience? No, he is not.
Okay, all right, Commissioners, any questions on this?
Just
Rawls?
following what we've been doing, I'd make a motion that we reduce the fine an additional $1,175. From when I'm reading the letter, Charlie says that he has cleared the property. All the nuisances and concerns that we had are gone, and
Yes, sir.
we now have a
Just what we
nice, clean
wanted.
piece of
Somebody
property.
came in, bought it, cleaned it up.
So, yeah.
Sir.
Okay.
Okay, we got,
Mr. Chairman? I didn't hit my button.
okay, all right, okay, we got a proper motion by Commissioner Rawls to reduce it additional $1,175. What's that bring it down to?
$979, I believe.
Yep.
979. Okay, we got a proper second by Commissioner Turner, so we'll open up for discussion with Commissioner Harvey.
Mr. Chairman, this is making me so happy. Not only because we're cleaning up areas in our county, but we're not spending money doing it. And we're not abating them, we're getting them cleaned up and back out there. So I want the public to see this while we're doing this. You might go, well, you're taking money off the table. We're not spending any money, and someone else is doing it for us, which we'd have ended up with if we wouldn't have done that. So I applaud this process, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to make my comment.
Okay, Commissioner Goddard?
If I could just comment in here, one thing that we as a commission, we would much rather see an empty lot than a derelict house.
That's right.
It looks better, it's better for the community, it's better for all the way around.
Okay, so we got a proper motion, proper second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Our next one is case 2005-00488 at 135 Oak Circle in Interlochen, Florida. The property owner's name is Alexandria Perkins. It was for an unsafe structure care premises. This was an abated property. With the abatement, the cost of enforcement on this was $4,080. The recommendation from code enforcement is to lower this fine from $57,775 to $4,080 if paid within 90 days. Is Alexandria Perkins in the audience today? No, sir.
Okay, all right. Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the recommendation minus administrative monthly fee of $750 for a total of $3,330.
Second.
Okay, got a proper motion on the floor by Commissioner Turner to reduce it down to $3,330, I believe, and a proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Gentlemen, the code case 2016-00524 for Two Keys Investment was taken care of, and as we're removing that, if it's okay, from the agenda. And if you'll give me a second for Mary Verbal to go and open this up, I wanted to move into the abatement and foreclosure part. These abatements and foreclosures that we'll be discussing are ones that previously I've talked to you about and you've given you handouts about in the workshop meeting. The first case we're going to be dealing with is case number 2017-00469, the heirs of Mary E. Sapp and Leslie W. Emery. It's located at 133 Oak Circle in Interlochen. This has been an ongoing issue for many years. We've been through every part of the special magistrate process where we've gotten a findings of fact, conclusion of law, we have a lien against the property, and we do have, from the special magistrate, an abatement and/or foreclosure order. This is the one that Mary will be putting up some pictures of, where somebody has put a mobile home on a lot and then started to demolish it, and it is just a unsecured, open mobile home, and it's a mess in an otherwise nice neighborhood. So we're asking for the Board of County Commissioners to approve what money it would take to abate this property. We will then put an abatement and foreclosure lien against the property.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, yeah, Commissioner Rawls?
How much do we have set aside for that right now, you remember?
We have, I was told we have $100,000 in the abatement budget. And this is something I can
True.
assure you,
Matt,
since
is
you
that
freed
right?
it up,
100?
we're spending this money, we're moving.
We have $100,000 in the budget, I'm pretty sure, for this year to do just these kind of projects, and we funded the biggest part of it out of the sales from the
Okay.
surplus lands that we sold,
That is absolutely correct.
so.
I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that was going to be some of the questions I had, but I want to go in a little different manner here. Just because the board gets the abatement or foreclosure doesn't mean we're going to spend abatement money to do this. Aren't we going to put this on our surplus properties that we have for sale and let someone else bid on it and let them clean it up? Because that's what we've been doing. So just because we say it's an abatement or foreclosure, it can go on that list once it comes to us, and maybe we don't have to spend that money.
Yes, sir.
Somebody else can spend their money. Is that my understanding?
That is, I do not have a good answer. I was asked before when we would abate or when we would foreclose, and I do not have a good answer on that yet.
I think my point is, I'd rather see them go on the list before we spend the money to abate, and
That means foreclosure then?
and
Yes,
let
sir.
someone else spend their money and not the county spend their money.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Goddard?
Yeah, but Commissioner, these have to go, we don't own these properties.
No,
We have
so
no
that, I would
ownership,
have to go through the
so it has
process.
to go through
process of
that
foreclosure.
process
See.
before it can go onto the list. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that we've been talking about doing this type of stuff for quite some time, and where we start this out at is where we're gonna have to try to remain consistent throughout the process while we're doing it. Why is it on the first one that you said that we should abate it and not foreclose on it, if I read it correctly? This one here.
It's a
and on the-
property-
And on this next two, you wanted to foreclose then abate.
Well, actually, only on one did I recommend to abate, and that is because it's a fairly simple abatement to remove the two trailers, and it's a large piece of property. That is a good piece of property in a nice area. So that's the only reason why. The other ones are small pieces of property that we are not going to, if we do it, keep it and sell the property, we're not going to get the cost of abatement out of it. The one that I'm going to be we talked about before on Miller Road, I'm going to present to you next. There, we will get our cost of abatement out of it. That's the only reason on that one I recommended for closing.
Okay, well, on this one we're talking about right now, that the fine is $16,425. It says that your recommendation is abating the property and placing a lien on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any idea how much foreclosure is gonna cost on one of these? I don't have a problem foreclosing on properties as long as we clean them up. The fight that I had last year was that we were talking about foreclosing possibly on properties, and then we weren't gonna clean them up. That's just wrong. So now that we're actually talking about abating the properties and get them back, and then trying to get them back on the tax rolls as quick as we can, that's the proper way to do it, as in my opinion. So, I just don't know how much it costs to foreclose. If it would be better for us to go on and abate it and just put the lien on it and hopefully it sells one day, and, you know, and we could even think about a fine and decrease at that time if possible. If it, what I'm concerned about, I guess, or one of the things that I'm concerned about is that if there's a lien on the property for $30,000 and it's a $6,000 piece of property, the county will just own it forever.
Right.
And that's not what the intent here is. It's to clean it up and to get it back on the tax rolls, a two-pronged intent. And so I think if we just put a big lien on it, we haven't done anything except just put a big lien on a piece of property. That means that it's never gonna anything happen to it again in the future. So I was wondering that maybe we could figure out what it costs to foreclose, or have some kind of an idea. So maybe if it costs $3,000 to foreclose, we could put it out on the market on one of our surplus properties, if we could foreclose on it, and maybe somebody would want it bad enough that they're willing to clean it up in order to have it, a neighbor or somebody, you know, you just don't know. I think Mr. Smith is.
He has your answer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Commissioner
thank you,
Rawls,
Mr.
did you
Chairman.
have-
The
Smith?
filing fee for foreclosure with the courts runs between about $600 and $2,000 based on the value of the property that's being foreclosed. These are not going to be on the 2,000 end of that, I will assure you. Then there's some publication cost, so you're probably on these types of properties, probably somewhere less than $1,000, I would guess. But it still takes 6 or 7 months to go through that process.
But then, if I may, Mr. Chairman, but if we do go through the process and we own it, then we can turn it back out on the street and do something with it instead of just having a big lien on a piece of property that'll prevent it from ever selling. So, you know, I don't know, I have no heartburn putting some of our skin in this game. I have no heartburn with that at all, as long as we're doing it consistently and we're trying to do the right thing. And I think we are here. I just don't know if we shouldn't foreclose on them, you know, especially if they're not usable properties that people are not actively working on or whatever. Go ahead and foreclose on them, see if somebody else will abate them. If not, then we'll pony up the money and abate them ourselves.
Would it be better if I were to ask that we be given the permission to find out which is more cost-effective for the county, either abatement or foreclosure, and allow our administrator to make the decision on what is best for the county?
Yeah, that would be the recommendation that I would like to see come on these, and I know that we're just starting this process. This is our first of a long list that we're looking at, so maybe as part of this process, y'all could do that, or Mitra, or whoever's gonna handle this in the future could go to, you know, to Mr. Siafi, or maybe to Matt, or to Terry, or whoever they determine and decide how we wanna take this forward with having heard this discussion today. But if we can, if our hard costs are gonna be in the $1,000 area, then all we'd have to do is just be successful at this one time, and it would pay for every foreclosure that we're going through if somebody else did the abatement instead of us. It'd only take one success and you've paid for all of them. So I'm not so sure that isn't how we might need to try to proceed, is even though it's gonna take 6 months. The government's slow. Everybody in here knows it. It's no surprise. So
May I ask that these three that we have that are the most egregious ones, that we use these as the guinea pigs? Good. So I'll continue to present it, but I will ask you then to give us permission to find out what is most cost effective, and for our county administrator to make the decision of which is best for the county.
yeah, that's fine, or his designee, whatever he wishes. But yeah, that would be a key part of this process, I would think, that we're trying to start today.
Good.
That would be a very key part, is what is the best for us?
I agree
You know,
completely. Well, that
know-
is my
knowing-
recommendation on the first one then.
Knowing that our intent is to get this property back on the street, on the tax roll.
Yes, sir.
That is, I think, is the intent of everybody up here, is that if we have to put a little money in it of ours or whatever, we budgeted money this year for that reason.
Yes, sir.
So the intent would be to get it there and get it back on the street. Putting a lien on one, I don't think gets us there, Charlie.
I agree. Thank you, sir.
All right, Commissioner Rawls.
That is my recommendation then on case number 2017-00469, which is the abandoned mobile home at 133 Oak Circle in Interlochen.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Rawls.
What we're discussing is a policy. I think it would benefit everybody if we could go ahead and get this in writing, so we could have continuity. What would be helpful to me, you've got total fines and fees are $16,000, but I don't know how that breaks down. I don't know what the true, how much of it is fines. Obviously, if we take this property, those go to zero.
Yes, indeed.
But it would be helpful to me to know what we really have in the property, and then what the real property value is, for the fair market value is, according to the property assessor's office maybe. And then, I agree with Mr. Turner, put it on the market. But I don't even know if we're worried about if we set it for $20 at a minimum bid and somebody buys it for $20 and it's worth $2,000 or $3,000, as long as it gets cleaned up in the end. So my understanding, what we're discussing is, we're foreclosing first, and then putting up for sale, and then if they sell, whoever buys is responsible for abatement. If not, then we'll take a look at it at a later date for us to abate it.
And if I might, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take it a step further. I think this thing should be written down, or at least some broad policies developed here of what we're gonna do. But along with that, I think we need to put a time frame in there, that if this property hadn't sold within 60 days and it's ours, we abate it. Because what I don't ever wanna see happen is us start taking property from people and then us not abating it for the same reason we took it from them for. That's not fair.
Yeah. Well, this one says there's 3 years of taxes unpaid.
Yes, sir.
So I assume,
It's an abandoned property, basically.
I'm not familiar with this part of it. How does this work out for, what, do we pay we owe the money out of the general fund or out of the abatement fund maybe? Could that be used for that?
That's correct. Those would have to be paid as well. So that would be a cost in factoring in what's
I think we
more
do need to
efficient.
see those numbers then, because I'm not saying I wouldn't be happy if somebody sold a piece of property for $20 that we paid $5,000 worth of the back taxes on, but it sure would be fun to know what the back taxes are on it. Mr. Siafi.
Mr. Siafi.
Good morning, gentlemen. So what I'm hearing is we want to go the foreclosure route, put it on the list for sale. If that doesn't sell, we're going to go ahead and abate it, so we don't have a derelict property that the county has taken.
But expedited, right?
Position, right?
With a time limit.
Yeah. This is gonna move.
Because we're trying to, we've had no action in this abatement process for years, so that's where we're trying to go.
So what are we looking at time-wise? Is this a 90-day period of time from?
Well, if we take it, Timmy just, excuse me, Mr. Smith just said. I'm the same guy. Yeah, I know. I've known him since we was kids. Hell, Mr. Smith just said it's probably gonna take 6 months to get them foreclosed.
Yeah, so it said 6 months, yeah.
Well, I know that that seems like a long time, but from the court's perspective, this is a taking of property. And they want to make sure that everyone has proper notice and time to respond and not lose their property. Now, it still takes a while. So that's the legal process. Same with tax deed sales. It just takes a while to do the publication, have time for responses. Then if no responses, then you have to set it for a sale and all those things.
So 6 months from now, we could have a pile in the hopper now. Next month, we bring another pile. 6 months from now, the first ones are shaken out, and we're just dealing with this going forward, so.
I would be willing to bet that 6 months from now, we don't have any in the hopper, because it takes some time to prepare this foreclosure stuff. And so if we can get a few of them done this month and try to make it do as hard as we can to make it a goal to get 3 or 4 a month or whatever, then we could string them out there in the end. And we could put them for sale 3 or 4 at a time. As soon as we own them, we could put them up for sale.
That's what I'm saying. We'll have 6 months from now, we'll have these coming back to us. Then we'll have a decision to make.
When you, I'm gonna put Lawyer Joe on the spot here for a second. Once you foreclose on a piece of property, do you have to quiet title that property like you do a tax deed, or is that, once you foreclose on it, do you not have to quiet title it?
I would think that once you've had your foreclosure action, all the proper notices have been given to all the, anybody that would have an interest in the property, that would settle the matter.
That's what I was thinking, but I thought I'd get a legal opinion instead of a roofer's opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Even when you go through the foreclosure process, then there's a bidding action. So that doesn't mean that you might not end up with the property to be able to abate it. Someone else might buy it. But then they're gonna have the problem that code enforcement's gonna come back on them if they're not doing something. And then, so it's not a given that you'll be the successful bidder.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you. I didn't know Mr. Smith would trump the commissioner, but he is our
Well,
sixth commissioner, correct?
We're still trying where you buzz,
actually like him.
where you use the, the light in, he spoke in, so he trumped you.
Just having fun with you, Mr. Smith. I think what we should do, look, I think we settled the ground rules here. But I think once we get the property in the county's possession, then we have a time limit. And maybe that time limit is 6 months, that we put it out on the street for bid, for sale. If it doesn't sell, we abate the property. That should be our policy and procedure. But once we get it, that's what we should start doing. If we never get it, then we don't do it. But I think that's what we should start doing.
Would it be impractical, say, within 30 days of us getting it, it's, General Services has it out on the street?
That would be, yeah.
So can we make that part of the policy?
Sure. Let's go 30 days once we get it, and then we got 6 months to abate it and clean it all up. And that solves the whole problem.
What happens if the scenario kicks in that Mr. Smith just described?
We never received it.
No, but what happens to the fines and all that? If
Well,
somebody else gets the property, those transfer?
Then it starts all over again.
With
and-
a $0?
No, it starts with the fines.
Where they are now?
Right.
Okay.
And that's where they come in.
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay, all right, hang on just a second. See, the purchasing warden is coming down, so everybody's.
I believe she's probably fixing to talk about the same thing I was going to.
Be prepared,
so
but
we'll
Julianne, before you start,
yes.
Commissioner Turner had a comment.
Go ahead, I'll let you trump me too.
Appreciate that. Just a recommendation, before you put into policy a date and certain that General Services is going to have it on the street, typically we get the best response if we're able to combine them with others. So what we saw, when we put these properties out for bid, when we only had a couple, we didn't get as good a response as if we had these. So if it means the difference between waiting 30 or 35 days, I'd prefer you not put a date certain in that.
What if we put a number, when we reach 10 or 8 or whatever that number is? What would that
Or
number
you
be?
can just say it as expeditiously as possible, or you can, you know, your language, certainly we shouldn't sit on it, but, and that's if I understand the method for your clause, but I would hesitate against putting a date certain, because then the county's obligated to something that may not make the best sense for the county.
Mr. Chairman, Julie, at the risk of putting you on the spot, and it's not my intention, would you help us come up with a set of rules that we can use to follow to try to, an outline or something that we could, that won't violate policy, that will allow us to maybe foreclose on these properties? And I think the best thing that could happen here is the scenario that Mr. Smith came up with, that somebody buys it before we have to advertise it. And if they wanted to come in here and get a fine reduction on that, this commissioner would wave flags and try to get them in here for that, because they've just cut off a lot of the process. So, yeah, I think that unless y'all can determine that it's a detriment to the county, that foreclosure, to me, would be the way to go if it's not an active property that people are trying to clean up and work and whatever.
And just to be clear, your procurement policy already does have policy and procedures for what we would deem surplus property, to include property sales. So in the event that we went through a foreclosure and we were the successful or unsuccessful recipient, that we owned that property back, there are provisions. It allows us to, it allows a special provision if an adjacent property owner is most interested. It gives us authority to negotiate with them first, although we have to give a notice to everyone, and or go through the bid cycles that we've been going through. So there is already policy in place for the process that we should follow.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Chairman, with regard, now that we've laid the ground rules, do you know of any reason, Charlie, why on the case 17-469, do you know any reason why it would be not in our best interest to foreclose on that property and try to get it back on the street?
If I was a neighbor living next to this open and abandoned mobile home, I wouldn't be happy about another 6 or 7 months. One thing that I would ask you all to consider would be a structure that is so dangerous or so vermin infested that it is a danger to the area. I think that our commissioners should think about eliminating that problem and then foreclosing on the property, because in some cases it is such an egregious problem that something needs to be done as soon as we possibly can. Today you all have the authority to give us permission to abate a property where this could be done within a month. If we foreclose, we might end up with somebody else who then, according to Mr. Smith, thank you, might or might not, we might have a new code enforcement action again. I wouldn't be happy with my commissioners if it happened in my neighborhood.
Well, that's actually a very good point. If it's a safety issue or that sort of thing, then that would probably trump the deal. We do need to go on and abate that to keep it from taking a year or two. That's exactly why we put the money in the budget, in my opinion, to do some of these, is, you know, for this. So do you think this is one of those cases that it's a safety hazard?
I think this one would be a good one to try a foreclosure on, because I don't think this isn't enough of in an area that it's isolated enough. I don't really think that this is as an egregious a problem as the 2 other ones that we're going to see.
Okay, so 17-049, you would say foreclose.
I would use that as our guinea pig to find out about the foreclosure process.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
And which number is it?
Second.
17-469.
Okay, I thought you said, okay.
Second.
Item F.
Okay.
Can I ask, what is the anticipated cost of abatement?
I'm sorry,
What's it gonna cost to move it off? The mobile home?
I really didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
The anticipated cost to move off the mobile home?
It is, for abatement with a single wide, it's usually somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. It has been. with the bids we've gotten in previous years, and a double wide's anywhere from about 5,000 to 10,000, depending on how much more debris is on the property. That's my wild guess and what I've seen previously.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, whoops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Charlie, thank you for that candid, I agree with you that if it's life safety, we need to respond quickly. This is in my district. I don't mind explaining to the residents around there that this is something that we're trying to do more quickly. I can't speak today for some reason. And you know, that we're trying to avoid cost at all costs, and that lowers the taxes down if we can. So, you know, I'll take the heat on this one, but I think it's important that we do have a guinea pig, and this one would be perfect for that. And thank you for being candid with us today.
My pleasure.
I'll take the heat with you, Commissioner, because I think this is a great program that we've got going here, and we need to work hard at keeping it going.
That's right. Okay.
Okay, so we got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner, I believe, and a proper second by Commissioner Rawls. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yeah,
This next
passes.
case is case number 2017-00223. It is owned by TC 13 LLC. The location is 112 Miller Road in Pomona Park, Florida. These are two unsafe, open and accessible mobile homes on a large piece of property. The recommendation from code enforcement is this also is one that we should attempt to foreclose on and then move forward with. It is in an isolated area where it's not out in the open, and quite frankly, we haven't been getting many complaints from anybody in the neighborhood recently, so it's pretty quiet where this would be another one. Also, the property is large and it's high where we should be able to recover the costs.
Okay, Commissioners? Any questions on this one?
So on this, if I may, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman,
Mr.
on
Turner.
this particular one, you're recommending that we abate then foreclose?
Negative, sir. I'm
Foreclose.
recommending on this one that we go for foreclosure on this
Foreclosure.
property.
So
And this
moved,
is the
Mr.
one we
Chairman.
discussed, the foreclosure in the workshop.
Second.
All right, got a proper motion by Commissioner Turner and a proper second by Commissioner Harvey. Okay, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. G will foreclose.
This next case, gentlemen, is the heart-wrenching one. This is case number 2009-00827 by Benny and Susan Smith from 217 O'Farrell Avenue in Interlochen. This has been a problem since 2009. It has never gotten better. It's just continually gotten worse. This house is vermin infested. It is a danger and a open accessible danger and a health hazard to the neighborhood. We've had many, many complaints on this continuously from all of the neighbors. This is a house that I recommend. It's been going on since 2009. Mr. and Mrs. Smith are here, but this is one, we are to the point where there's more money owed on this in fines and fees than anybody could possibly be expected to pay on this property. And it's one that I'm recommending that we abate as soon as possible and then go for foreclosure. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, would you like to come up, please?
Okay, if you would, for the record, please speak into the microphone and state your name and your address.
Benny Smith, physical address 100 Adrian Avenue.
Susan Smith, 100 Adrian Avenue.
Okay. You want to make any comments about the particular case that's before you?
Yes, we're in the process of removing all our personal belongings out of the house, but we're on fixed incomes and we're working as we can. And our original plan was to get everything out, get a demo permit, tear it down, and put another trailer on the address.
Okay. And
This house has been condemned, and they've been out of the house since 2017. I've had continuous communication with Mrs. Smith and let them know that at any time during daylight hours, everything could be removed from the residence. They've been supposed to pull permits for stuff on this house since 2009, and it has not happened. We have tried since 2009 to get them to comply, and it's just gotten worse. I don't see this situation getting better.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Smiths are friends of mine, number one, and also this is in my district. We've had calls from the neighbor on this, and this board has discussed this last month about giving the Smiths time to get their stuff out. I do think it's time to move forward, and I've talked to both of you separately about this in the past. You know, it's time to, $88,000 worth of liens ain't gonna happen. So I think the best thing we can do today is to abate this property, clean it up. Y'all need to hurry and get your stuff out if the board chooses, and move forward on this case, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
What's the time frame?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that on this case 2009-00827, that we abate this property, give the Smiths 30 days to get everything off that property that they own in the daylight hours, and move forward on that.
How am I supposed to get there?
Okay.
I'm under doctor's care.
Okay, hang on just a second. We got a proper motion by Commissioner Harvey, okay, with those specifics, and we got a second by Commissioner Turner. Okay, yes, ma'am?
I have a doctor's paper here that I can't drive for 3 months and a week due to previous seizure last year.
Okay, Mr. Smith, are you able to drive?
Yes, but I work part-time up at Hitchcock's out there, and, but I could, you know, I work like 6 in the morning to 10 in the morning, and so that gives us like maybe a half a day by the time I get home and we get everything together to go over there to get it out. So, I mean, it would be nice if we could have like 60 days to get it out. That would help us tremendously, if that's possible.
Or 90 days.
Okay, all right. Commissioner
Our
Rawls?
finances are tight right now.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls?
Based on what I'm saying, you've had 9 years. I don't think 60 or 90 days is going to help. Half a day for 30 days is 15 full days. I don't know how much stuff you have in your house that would take 15 days to get out, but I would imagine it could be done. So.
Well, we don't have a pickup truck.
I understand, but in this case, this has become an impediment on the neighbors.
There's only one neighbor that's fussing about it, and it's the guy next door.
Right.
His name is Kevin Perry.
Okay, ma'am, you don't need to get mad at us. We're just trying to do our job, okay? And
He's the one
wait a
who's
minute,
fussing,
ma'am.
not me.
I'm speaking now. And as Commissioner Rawls said, you've had a long time to take care of this, and this hadn't happened, and something has to happen because this is a property that needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be taken down. So I think 30 days is plenty of time. If you want to amend that motion to, you know, give them 45, I don't have a problem with that, but.
I'll amend the motion for 45 days.
Okay.
I'll amend the second, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, we got a second amended first and amended second to allow you 45 days to retrieve your items during the day. Is there any other, you want to make any other comment? I think that's about the best we're going to do today.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you and good luck.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Smith asked me a question a second ago. Going back to the foreclosure, is it possible for us to request a deed in lieu of foreclosure before we start the foreclosure process to see if somebody's interested in
That's a good idea.
taking care of their issue?
What was the first part of your statement?
A deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Okay.
They sign over the deed in lieu of foreclosure.
Is that
Done all the time.
It certainly would.
possible? Yeah.
It certainly wouldn't hurt anything at all, if you could get that done, but in most of these cases, for us foreclosing on them, the people haven't appeared in 3 or 4 or 5 years and paid their taxes. So a lot of times they can't be found, but you betcha, I'm on your team on that one.
I just say we
If we can,
offer
if we
them the
can find
opportunity.
somebody that'll give us a deed in lieu of foreclosure, it'd save a bunch of money. So I just don't know that you're gonna get that done, but it is absolutely worth a try.
Is that something you'd be willing to offer some money to somebody to save us the court costs?
Well, that might be an offer too. I mean, but we got to be very careful with that.
Sir.
But, yeah, it might be an offer, to give them.
We will look into that along
Get
with
one
the
of these
other.
programs for foreclosure.
I would get with Julianne because she's back there making faces and she's shaking her head no.
Oh, okay.
So,
Very good. Well, thank you,
but I'd
Commissioners.
explore that option. Charlie, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And welcome to the staff.
What
And
is she
seen Charlie this happy in a long time.
What
Okay,
is the
Commissioner Harvey?
purchasing warden shaking her head no about?
Oh,
We can't take a deed in lieu of foreclosure?
you had to poke the bear, didn't you?
Well, this is the longest I've made it around her yet that she wasn't mad. I may as well make her mad.
No, your legal counsel will be happy to advise you on that. My concern is that we've had numerous property owners wanting to give us properties, and if we're gonna start paying people to give us deeds,
No,
we're gonna have a whole bunch of properties that we may not want. Only concern I had.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think these are code case by case basis, though.
Well, no doubt.
Yeah.
is that just for you when you come up?
It's her when she comes up and leaves.
Right. Okay. At least you didn't get the gong. Okay.
The gong.
All right, thank you, Charlie, and your staff. Okay, we move down to Clerk of Court, Honorable Tim Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items to mention. First, y'all were speaking about the SCOP grants earlier, and the amount that's budgeted, approved by FDOT, and then we refund money if we don't spend it all. That's not how that works. We pay up front, and then we ask for reimbursement. So it's not money sitting in our account. We get it back, so it's our money up front. Did want to mention, and you all got a flyer here, Operation Greenlight. This is a statewide effort to help folks get their driver's license out of suspension if they have past due fine amounts that they have not paid that are due to the courts and your license is suspended. Yearly, we have a program where we can go back and waive the collection fees that has been assessed to your account, which is an additional 40%. We are going to run this program next week, Monday through Friday. We're going to stay open late on Wednesday and Thursday for folks that can't get there during normal business hours. We also offer a payment option. If you sign up and start the payment option, we can help you get your license reinstated. All court costs and assessments by the courts are due. Those don't get waived. The legislature does not let you waive any of those. We can waive that 1 week, the collection fee that's been assessed and added to it. So if the only one that really was interested in this brochure when I handed it out today was Laura Parsons, so I'm not sure what her license status is, but she was really interested. So Laura, let me know if you need some help. We'll work you through that. But I know it might not necessarily be you, but you may know someone that has a license suspended and they're trying to find a way out of that. This is an opportunity that we can work with them to set them up on a payment plan. It's not a lot every month, but we expect you to make those payments. And if you don't, then your license will go back in suspension. But it's an opportunity for folks to get their license back, drive legal. And that's really the intent of the legislature. And what they asked us to do this year was to assist folks in doing that. License can be suspended for other reasons. Jeff and I were, Commissioner Rawls and I were talking earlier about a gentleman, a license that is suspended because of non-payment of child support. So we can also work with you to find a way out of that. It's not necessarily this program, but there are options that we can work with you and assist you with Department of Revenue so that we can get your license out of suspension. The key here is to have people driving legal. They need their license, they need to get to work, They need to make a living, they need to take care of their family. So if you know anyone that's in that position, let them know this program going on next week. During the week, as I mentioned earlier, staying open late 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. Lastly, I'd like to mention Craig McLean. Craig McLean, as all of you know, has worked for decades on our rail system, our trail system, now the Waterways and Greenways Board. I would hope that sometime in the future that some portion of our trail can be dedicated to Craig McLean, because without him starting this and his efforts, we would not have these wonderful amenities in our community. So it's not my choice to do that, but there are 60 miles of trail going to be running through our town from Keystone Heights to St. Augustine. Surely we could find somewhere in there to recognize Craig so that we can thank him for his efforts in that. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, we'll move down to appointments. Any appointments? We'll start with Commissioner Goddard.
I have none.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls.
I have none.
Okay, Commissioner Harvey.
I don't have any, sir, but I would like to take Faith Bartman's name off there. She is deceased. I should be making that appointment next month. I was hoping to do it this month, but I think out of respect, we should just take her name off of there.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Turner.
I have none today, sir.
Could I
Okay.
go in?
Yeah, Commissioner Goddard.
Also, William McCormick has passed away also.
Okay, let's take his name off, yeah.
Okay, and I have none. Okay, on the TDC appointment, Administrator Suggs, from what I understand, we're going to take that back, and you're going to look at the policy of how, of what the board's policy is and what the statutes state, and then bring those recommendations, bring that back to us at a later meeting.
Yes, sir, I think that's probably the appropriate thing to do at this time. Just look at our policy and how we make appointments and address those concerns. And if we need to update or amend their policy, we'll do that. We'll bring it back to the board for ratification. And then those appointments moving forward will follow that new process.
Okay, may I,
Commissioner
Mr.
Turner?
Chairman?
Yep.
You know, I get that we want to make sure that we're doing things correctly, and I'm all for that 100%. But I don't think we should run from an issue either. And I think that may be perhaps part of what we're doing here today is running from an issue. And I just want to, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to state the way I feel about it. You know, I appreciate when a citizen from our community wants to participate on any board. I truly appreciate that, and especially when that person is passionate about doing so. But that doesn't make me want to take somebody off of that committee that served on that committee for many years with distinction, because the new person wants to be on the committee, even if they are passionate about it. If the other person is passionate about it too, then fine. What we need to do is wait until there's an opening on the committee, and then keep that in mind and try to get them on the committee where they can serve out their passion. But to kick somebody off the committee that's already is doing a good job and was recommended by that committee to come back, that's just not the way you do business, guys. And so, yeah, okay, we're gonna take this and we're gonna do what with it, Terry? Go make sure we're doing what?
We're just going to look at the process of how applications are turned in and vetted prior to a recommendation or appointment being made.
Okay. So basically that means that in this particular case, that the TDC is not gonna have two members appointed today when their terms are up, because we wanna make sure that we're accepting the applications correctly? Is that what we're doing? I'm not trying to be combative, Terry, I'm really
No,
not.
sir.
I just
No, sir.
wanna
No,
make sure I
you're-
understand what we're doing here.
Okay, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm doing what I was instructed to do, going through conversations to make sure that we follow
proper protocol and proper process for anyone who would like to have an opportunity to serve on any of our committees, whether it be the TDC or the Animal Advisory Board or BPP. We just want to make sure that the citizens of Putnam County are allotted an opportunity to apply, go through the process, and then have a recommendation made to the Board of County Commissioners on whether or not an application is accepted is all.
Okay, well, does somebody up here feel like something was done wrong or violated through this process?
I haven't had a chance to speak about it.
I feel that, let me just start. I agree with you as far as, and I had a conversation with Mrs. Conover about that I feel that there's no reason to change or to move somebody out of an appointed position if when their term is expired, if they're willing to serve on that capacity again and have participated, made the meetings, and added input and value. So I mentioned that. Well, that's the situation that we have. And we also have somebody that is interested in getting on the TDC board. They haven't had that situation in a number of years. Isn't that correct, Tabitha? So this is a little different situation. We haven't had this scenario. So I believe it's time to look and make sure that when her application was turned in, that we processed it properly, and all the information was exchanged properly, and that it would be presented back to the board. I think maybe a step was missed. I know Ms. Andrea did not get an email that requested her to bring more information about her qualifications. So that was missed. So I think that would be proved, even though I agree with the TDC recommendations. I was the chairman. I was there. I've worked with these people for a year, and I see no reason to replace any of them. But I think we need to look at this application, have it presented, and at least the commissioners can consider this, and we can move forward at the next meeting that we can get this to. But I think staff needs to look at the procedure of how these applications come in. Are they for the TDC specifically, or is it for the animal controller? Do they just come in and say, I'm interested in serving on a committee of some type? I think some things need to be looked at and make sure we're doing the right thing.
Okay, so what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, or what you're alluding to is that we look and try to make sure, and then at the next meeting discuss this again, because I think the existing people are still on there till October 31st, aren't they? Was it October 1st?
It was in the September, but when's the next meeting, Dana?
Next March.
December, isn't it?
Okay, so basically, we're gonna have staff look at this and bring it back to us at the next meeting?
Exactly, that's what I think that we need to do.
If I could chime in here for a few minutes. I personally think that term limits are a good thing. I think that human nature is to resist change, but change is good. I think operationally, we've been running the Tourist Development Council under the same operating agreement for 25 years without having to take a look at it. Personally, I don't think that it's being managed to the benefit of the taxpayers. I think that we spend an enormous amount of money out of the 4% tourist development money that we collect, paying someone to operate the Tourist Development Council. And I don't think that it's being operated per the contract. And I brought this up to the commission a while back at a workshop, and it fell on deaf ears. But I think we should take a look at the whole thing. I also think our economic development should be looked at as well. I think change is good. 25 years and look where we are versus where we could be. I think we should look at what other communities do and have done and look at how they prosper. So, me personally, 8 years should be plenty of time for somebody to be able to serve on a committee, do a good job, and move on to another committee or move on to greener pastures doing something else. But we should be able to open our doors to the public, to allow the public to come in, to give their input, and maybe give us a nudge in a different direction. Because cyclically, we're just spinning our wheels. We don't make change. We just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, the same people. And as people get older and older and older, they get more stuck in their ways. They're going to be more resistant to change. So this commissioner would encourage this commission to look at revamping the entire tourist development ordinance, take a look at it and see if we can't do something a little bit different and allow the public to have input into the tourist development, and maybe make some meaningful change.
Okay, Commissioner Turner?
Anybody that's been around any meeting that this has been discussed knows that I'm adamantly on the other end of the spectrum. I think that I understand that Commissioner Rawls is mad at TDC and the chamber and everybody else involved. It's no secret issue or something. So I just was hoping we could get through this one without that rash spewing into it. I think that what we need to do, truly need to do, is take these issues one at a time. This isn't term limits in Congress. I agree on that. I do. This is somebody that's done their best to serve on a committee as a volunteer, and you're going to kick them out on the street when they're doing a good job? Sorry, can't get there. I don't mind reviewing our policies. I don't make sure we're doing things correctly in the light of it, but I think the TDC is doing just fine. And you know, if you want to take a look at the policies in the TDC and workshop at some time, that's okay with me. I'll take a look at the policies, but I think they're doing just fine. And I think that the county's a lot better off than if we had never done economic development, or we hadn't had this TDC money over the years, or if we did away with it, or whatever the case may be. So in this particular instance, I'm willing to move this forward, Mr. Chairman. That's fine if that's what you want to do. That just goes to show when we go to breakfast in the morning, we don't violate sunshine, because me and you just sure didn't know what the hell that was all about. So anyhow, so you think you can have this ready and looked at by the next meeting, Administrator Suggs?
I believe, I'm sorry, yeah, I believe we can probably review it and look at it, and if we can get something done for you to review and probably approve on the 22nd, we'll do our very best. If not, it'd be the first meeting in November.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, no other appointments? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, Commissioner Harvey?
May I just want to kind of end that conversation. I had some concerns. Actually, yesterday afternoon, I was kind of settled in, and then another email came out yesterday afternoon that kind of said, maybe we should look at some of this processes a little bit better. So I think that I'm glad that we're going to stop this and look at it, because I think maybe some people that might serve might go, I didn't know there would be a replacement, and I might be able to take off. It's kind of like at church. You know, you don't want to give up your seat there doing something until you know someone else can take it over. And I think that opportunity either wasn't expressed by the email that I got yesterday afternoon, that maybe some people didn't know. So I think it's good that we stop just a little while, take a breath, and come back at the next meeting and give them an opportunity at that point to make any other recommendations. I do want to say, though, these are board appointments, and even though the committee makes a recommendation, it is up to this board to make that final. Because by that way, no board in the county would ever want to lose any member. And that would mean no commissioner would ever be able to make any appointments at that. So I think we got to find a little happy medium here at that point. And that's my closing comment about that. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think you're correct, Commissioner Harvey. And you can look, we're still having problems finding, you know, it's much smaller than it was at the beginning of the year, but we're still having trouble of finding qualified people to serve on these boards, because they pay little or nothing, most of them do. So when I talk about staff, I want to make sure everybody understands that staff has not had this particular scenario for a long time. And also, there was an email that was sent out that was not received, so some information was not given back to staff to be able to probably move this thing forward. So we're going to look at that and get that corrected, and hopefully bring it back at the next meeting and take care of this issue. Okay, we'll move down to number 11, County Administrator.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Just real quickly, a few weeks ago, I had a very, very short conversation about a potential meeting with the Social Security Administration folks wanting to come back to Putnam County and have a conversation. Received a phone call, as you know, Mr. Chairman, late yesterday afternoon. I'm going to be meeting with some folks on Friday afternoon here at the office to kind of have a conversation about maybe getting some representation from Social Security Administration back here in Putnam County. So I want to meet with them and have some very open dialogue and honest dialogue about what that would mean for our citizens of Putnam County. Just want to let you know that that's going to take place sometime Friday afternoon. Secondly, as you know, we've been talking strategic planning for quite a while. I think we're very close to solidifying our dates for our strategic planning sessions. We want to do 3 here in the county for our citizens to participate. Those dates will be November 5th, 16th, and 21st. The 5th and the 21st will be evening meetings from 5:30 to 7:30. We're going to host one in South Putnam at the Women's Club where we held our town hall meeting, and one at the Interlochen Center there where we held the other town hall meeting, and then a Saturday meeting at Ravine Gardens from 9 to noon. So we'll be advertising those meetings. We'll be reaching out to our civic groups and our other stakeholders in the community to try to make sure that we get the word out for these meetings. And then I've sent an email out yesterday to our commissioners for you to check your calendars for December 16th and 17th for your meetings. The 3 meetings in November, you're certainly welcome to attend. However, as we discussed recently in the board or workshop, is that they'd like for the participation to come from those that are in attendance and not from the commissioners, so there can be some open, honest dialogue between the stakeholders. So I just want to throw those dates out there and let you know about those. And lastly, if I can take a personal moment, Mr. Chairman, I want to do something that's, I think, is anyone who has a child will understand where I'm coming from with this comment. My son will be finishing up his accounting degree on Friday. He'll be graduating with his bachelor's degree in December. So I just want to take this opportunity for me to tell him how proud I am of him, how much he's loved, and I can't wait to see what he does moving forward, because he's done some great things recently. He's found a wonderful woman and gotten married for 3 years, and they're just doing great things. And I want him to know personally that even though he may be 7 or 8 hours from me on a daily basis, he's always near and dear to me, and I'm so proud of him, and I just want him to know that today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations. And hopefully you can make the graduation.
I will be there.
Okay, County Administrator, County Attorney Joe Dinovo.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Rawls.
Real quick, Mr. Suggs, the dates and times again, the 5th was 5:30 to 7:30, that was Crescent City? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, we're going to do it down at the Women's Club where we did the town hall. I think that's a great venue. It was very comfortable, and I think it'll give an opportunity for those people in the South End. The 16th was 5:30 as well? No, sir, the 16th is at Ravine Gardens, that's a Saturday, that's 9 to noon. And then the 21st will be at Interlochen from 5:30 to 7:30. That's at the community center? Yes, sir. And then, of course, how many, what is your, like, do they have a goal, a number of people they would hope to, and I'm just wondering if the community center is going to seat enough people? I think their goal will probably be anywhere between 25 to 50 people at these sessions. They're going to certainly accommodate as many as they can, and I think we'll have an opportunity with holding 3 different sessions for people to get involved in different areas of the county. And I know there's some, I've had recent emails from a couple folks. I told them I'd let them know when the schedule was finalized, and so I'll reach out to them later this week. But I think the goal is to accommodate as many as we can. If we see where there's a need for expansion, we'll do what we need to do. So we can add another day if necessary. This is our very first opportunity of doing this. We want to make sure that we're successful, and we want to give as many people the opportunity to participate as can. I think what will come out of this is going to be a working document that not only the 5 elected officials, but your staff as well as your community will understand where we're concentrating our energies, what's our goals, what's our objectives, yep. And put it out in front of them and see where we go. Okay, and I didn't want this meeting to be closed out without responding to the comment Mr. Turner said about this is personal between me and the chamber. That's absolutely not true. I don't have an issue with the Chamber of Commerce existing. What I take issue with is the fact that this commission and staff has allowed us to go into, in one case, a 20-year contract, in another case, a 24-year contract without revisiting these. Looking at the cost that they cost to operate the chamber and how much money the taxpayers have to put up for that, that's heartburn for me, that we provide 75% of the funding for a nonprofit corporation, that we have the highest compensated executive for a chamber of commerce in the counties that surround us. I have some grave concerns about it. It's nothing personal. I look at it from a business perspective and what's best for our taxpayers, and I don't think that we get the best value in doing business that way. So that's the reason why I've brought this up. It's not personal. It's my job. It's what I was asked to do when I was elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Goddard?
Yep. Well, I'm going to say we had the breast cancer awareness cookout where we sold butts, and they did the bagging at Hitchcock's, and it was very successful, very good. Commissioner Harvey, of course, always behind that grill. I was behind it a small amount. Then we moved on down to the wine and swine, and that was equally enjoyable. But I wanted to bring up one of the things that we overlook sometimes is our graduation rates continue to increase. And that's something we should be very proud of. Our county is moving in the direction it needs to move. We still have things that we need to work on, but I'm just proud. Our graduation rates are up. Our crime is reducing. People are much happier here. They see that we are moving forward. It's disheartening sometimes when I see something on Facebook where someone is moving new to the area and immediately they get attacked by people who probably have never left this county. You know, they have nothing to compare it to. Fortunately, I left this county. Didn't think I'd ever come back. I had some hard feelings. I wasn't going to come back. My wife never let up about getting back over here. But I'm so glad I came back. But I had something to compare it to. Our county is very blessed. We are very fortunate to live in this county, and I'm very fortunate to be a part of this commission that's moving us forward. I'm just ecstatic about it. And with that, if you don't think there's anything to do in Putnam County, go look. Oh my gosh, there's something going on everywhere if you just go look. We take our time just to ride out to the forest, enjoy the tranquility. We actually go out and have a picnic out there. It's just so many wonderful things here. We need to go out and look at it. And with that, I'm finished.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Goddard. Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do want to bring your attention to tonight at the Interlaken Community Center. This board has given us the latitude to have a meeting on the MSBU. As you know, West Putnam is full of MSBUs for the grading, mowing, and drainage area. So we're going to have the meeting tonight to try to encourage more participation in those citizens committees that actually run the MSBU and contract out with private contractors to take care of the roads and things in that nature. So tonight, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, there'll be a MSBU meeting tonight, and it has been publicly noticed, so you can be there. I think the Attorney Dinovo is going to go out there with us and be a part of that tonight. The Interlaken and the Rotary Club of Interlaken and Lakes area has taken over the concession stand at the Interlaken High School varsity games, and I want to thank all the elected officials. Our chairman and vice chairman were there not too long ago for the dedication of the new flag, and the Rams are winning, and homecoming is this weekend, and turkey legs are on the agenda for sale. So if you haven't had a grilled turkey leg, you're missing out, because I cook very good turkey legs. We got to get rid of the legs. I mean, Thanksgiving's coming, right? Flora Home Park they're having their fall festival on October 19th, and they would enjoy your presence out there. Craig, myself, and Tim Plymell are cooking for that event, and that'll be, I think we're going to have a little friendly cook-off. Everybody wins when you have a cook-off. you know, so they're going to do that. And please support my cooking as the best. Thank you very much. And I just want to say this in ending, and I was thinking about it in my walk this morning, how much I enjoy working with every commissioner. Commissioner Turner, you're exactly right. We do not communicate. It's quite obvious that we try to stay so far away from any of that happening. But we have a great county commission and a great staff here. And topics are brought up, and people are so willing to help. And there's not one of you that I couldn't call that wouldn't be there to help me. And I thought about this morning, Commissioner Turner, we were cooking for Pastor Kennedy. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, it gets kind of lonely out there. And who shows up with a couple cups of coffee? Commissioner Turner did that day. And I never forgot that because, you know, a lot of people are there in the beginning and there at the end, but the middle is where the work gets done at. And it was just nice to have somebody there with me. That was a very hard night. I'll never forget how hard that was to cook all night. But I'm sure if I picked up the phone to anybody in this staff or any of y'all, you'd be there, just like we'd be there for you. So I just want to say thank you and how much I enjoy working with each one of you. And Mr. Chairman, that'll end my comments.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Turner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start by thanking Charlie Erkman and John Cialfi for the hard work they've done in trying to bring that forward. I see they've already left. So now that I've complimented them, Jay, you can call them the teacher's pet. So, also, I would like to welcome Mitra to the county. I think she'll be a good addition to our staff. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Turner. I'd like to comment on the 27th Annual Swine and Wine sponsored by the Crescent City Rotary Club. We held it last weekend, and it was a success. We should have netted around $14,000. And I just want to thank all the commissioners that attended, Commissioner Turner and his family, Administrator Suggs, and Commissioner Goddard and Commissioner Harvey for cooking. And thank the Interlochen Area Lakes Club for what they did for us, the Palatka Sunrise Club and the Noon Club for sending people down to help us serve. So it was a really good event this weekend. And I don't know how Larry does it, because as he said, he cooked for the Pink Out Putnam for the breast cancer. I don't know what time y'all started, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then ended up at 6 o'clock down in Crescent City to prepare the food for our meal. So, but it was a good success, and I appreciate everything that you do. I know Commissioner Rawls was out of town. He's usually there. He was there last year with his wife and Liam, so we miss them. Other than that, we have a 2 p.m. workshop. Is there any further business to come before this board? Okay, we stand adjourned.